There you go. All right. Okay. Well, let's get going. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining. Welcome back to those who attended our last one and also who presented, Lucia, to our Women's Winter Survival Guide. So this is session 2, and it's great to see some new participants joining us. And I understand there's a few men in the background, so that's perfect. So you can learn about a little more kind of women-focused chat here. So I'm Louise Taylor, physiotherapist and co-owner of Movement Sports Clinic, along with my physiotherapist partner, Tyson Plesek. And it's our objective with these virtual sessions to provide trustworthy information from some really cool people, reliable sources, and particularly to help get us through these next few winter months. Because our health is more important than ever, and we're exploring the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental aspects of our wellness through these chats. We know the key to mental health is community support and community connectedness. And it's difficult when we've been told to stay physically apart, but how do we stay connected? But I think something like this is something that can make us see we are kind of all in this together and can help each other out. And meeting virtually a bit like, getting to the tea party again, or pour a glass of wine, whatever, and get some education as we go through this evening. So last week we focused on how to keep our immune system strong. And today the title is Winter and Staying Active Outside. So we're going to try to motivate ourselves to keep or to get outside during these winter months. So Lucia, pelvic health physiotherapist, is back to give us more insight on pelvic floor issues and exercising outside. And Monica Ambrositis is joining us from MEC team to explore some of clothing and dressing warmly for outdoor pursuits and to give us some safety considerations for getting outside and in the mountains. And Anne-Marie Viancourt is presenting on nutrition and sort of behavior and motivations around those pieces. So just a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording this session and it will be posted on our website. So last week's session is already posted along with some resources. So feel free to reach out to that, movementsportsclinic.ca, under the blog section, and you can access these video chats. So we have the sleep tips from Dr. Tobe and some slides from Christy about herbal medicine. So check that out, and hopefully in a day or two, this one will be up as well. So putting comments in the chat box, please, if you have anything to let us know about, please feel free to put that in the chat and we'll monitor that and kind of follow along as we're going through the talks. And each speaker will have about 10 minutes to chat and then a little bit of Q&A after, which we'll pull from the chat, or I will ask them questions. And when all three are finished, we can have a little bit more Q&A even amongst the speakers, and some final thoughts. So with that, if there isn't any questions in the chat, we can just get rolling. So Lucia is our pelvic physio and orthopedic physiotherapist at Movement Sports Clinic. So one of my colleagues, and she's a distance runner, has 2 children, and is always motivated to get outside. And she's really strong with empowering women with their fitness and health. Although we know she also treats male pelvic health issues as well. And so today she's going to talk to us about the pelvic floor and exercise, particularly out in the ice and snow. So Lucia.
Yeah, thanks, Louise. So let me just share my screen with you guys. I thought I'm going to make it a little bit of visual today. Okay. Is that better? Okay. So yeah, pelvic floor in a cold weather. I think last session we kind of touched kind of on the basics of the pelvic floor a little bit, kind of more in detail about the anatomy. So I'm going to skip it today, but for those who haven't been with us last week, here's the picture of the pelvis. This is all the pelvic floor muscles that we all have. I like to have the visuals because sometimes I feel like people tend to think of it as kind of like one muscle doing kind of one thing. And there are many tiny little muscles in about kind of 3 layers, and they do help us with the bladder function, with the bowel function, with the sexual function. They also at the same time are holding all those organs inside the pelvis and supporting us. And they are really important piece of our kind of core, and works together with the abdominal muscles, with the lumbar muscles, with the breathing. Kind of the main problems I see, I think that are really common that people kind of seek our help, is definitely something like the leaking, and we touch on this problem more in the past presentation. So if you want a little bit more detail on the stress incontinence and leaking, maybe head to our blog. Very common and definitely shows up way more kind of in the winter is kind of we call it the urgency incontinence, basically urgency to pee, a strong sensation to pee. And there's another kind of a big category of the pelvic pain that I do see clients, females and males, for. Um, so cold weather. This is so nice that we are doing this on this very cold evening in Calgary as I'm kind of slouching here. So at the end of the day, cold weather is not fun. It's not, nobody seeks to exercise in the cold weather, but here in Calgary, we are stuck with this for the next couple months. And in general, the cold creates tension in our body. It does create this really insecurity. Lots of people, the common things I do here in my practice, people would prevent them from, going more outside is, the being scared of the falling, being all kind of slunched and hunched over as we kind of walk. People take way shorter strides. People feel really off balance. People have really kind of a shallow breathing. And all these things basically negatively impact our body, not just our pelvic floor, but this negative impact, what it does to the pelvic floor muscles, it makes them tight. And in the end of the day, you don't want a tight muscle at the end of the day, nowhere in your body, and especially not in a pelvic floor, because if you have a tight pelvic floor, at the end of the day, it really cannot do the job that it's designed for. At the end of the day, the pelvic floor is this really trampoline on the bottom, and it needs to absorb the impact from us walking and hiking and skiing. And so therefore, as we kind of go outside and we don't necessarily feel comfortable and we are holding our breath, we are taking really short strides, the tension might make you possibly experience more leaking in the winter months. And I think just generally cold, especially females, I always hear the complaints. Females are always seeking for, the warm boots, the warm gloves, especially as soon as I think kind of the cold sensation sneaks into your body, that feeling of a cold feet, cold hands, that definitely does something, kind of triggers our nervous system and kind of, again, creates tension. Our breathing gets really shallow. We might tighten our core. And sometimes that can basically lead to, again, tension in the pelvis and create a strong sensation to pee. So sometimes it happens to me that I have a patient who, I do go pee before I leave the house, but 20 minutes into my walk, as soon as my feet or hands get cold, like that's kind of game over, and I feel so uncomfortable and I need to kind of go back to the house because I feel I'm not going to make it. And again, it's just this, we don't even realize how much that tension and stress we are putting on our pelvic floor. And this tension kind of irritates those nerve endings inside the pelvis, and they almost kind of creates kind of like a spasm-like situation, and then they make you feel like you gotta go pee, even though at the end of the day, there really isn't that much volume left in your bladder. So how can we make this all better for us? So how to be a little bit more happier outside? I usually say, again, as much as you, and this is so nice that Monica is here from MEC, because I think this all just puts it nicely so together. I usually say, slow it down, get control of your breathing. My mantra is always soft belly, soft pelvic floor. I really do not want you to hold any tension in your body, in your belly, especially females are such abdominal clenchers. That's kind of, I usually feel, where lots of the females do hold the stress, do hold the tension. So that's kind of my big mantra: getting out of the door, give yourself the tap on the shoulder. You're doing it, you're going outside, soft belly, soft pelvic floor. Again, slow down the strides, correct your posture. Like I always say, the first 2 blocks, whatever you're doing, the first couple meters in cross-country skiing, again, it's not kind of a big speed right off the start, but slow it down, correct your posture, check in with yourself. Am I clenching my pelvic floor? Am I clenching my belly? Let it go. Those muscles are so much better at their relaxed state, because that's when they can do their proper function. And the other thing that, makes you stay there out or longer and do what you like to do is you do have to dress warm. So potentially you don't get, the sensation of the cold, and that doesn't irritate your bladder. Do invest in anything that makes your shoes or the grips for the shoes so much better, so you don't feel like you need to be tensing and taking shorter strides, or every time you're outside you're thinking of the risk of falling. And I always say something in the winter that, again, makes us more accountable: plan an activity with a friend, because there is a higher chance we just going to go out there and kind of get it done. But at the end of the day, you know, it's not just about the pelvis and not just about kind of the pelvis strengthening or the pelvic floor kind of strengthening. Really for the winter sports, as they're more challenging, as the ground is more uneven, as the snow and ice kind of might be kind of out there, I always say it really kind of takes the whole body to be strong, and especially the pelvic floor is connected, you know, to your pelvis, and around the pelvis are all your hip muscles. So I quite encourage female to really invest kind of the time and get yourself stronger for the winter sports, or get yourself stronger during the winter. So I'm a big advocate of, you know, hip strengthening, the balance exercises, build up your confidence so you can do all those, you can be kind of comfortable in the situation outdoors. And then also, you know, hip stretches, because we might be, you know, more fatigued and more tight from the conditions being outside. So my favorite kind of a hip strengthening for females, and I intentionally picked all the low impact muscles. This has nothing with the high, you know, kind of a jumping. If you have never done these, you can start really easily just with your body weight and you get a great workout. If you need more, you can totally add that a resistance band. You can add, you know, a dumbbell holding it in front of your body for all these exercises. Something kind of like a squat to make your glutes kind of a stronger. Something like the second picture, we call it a crab walk or monster walk. Just, you know, again, get the body comfortable, moving sideways, moving forward, something kind of like a glute bridge. Again, just get those glutes working. At the end of the day, it is the biggest muscle group kind of on your legs. So just definitely make those muscles work. And again, something like a balance. Practices at home. I always say to all my females, you know, brush your teeth, standing on one leg. Again, if you practice at home, you're always going to just be better and more prepared for those situations. So again, those kind of little, like a little slips and, you know, hesitation outside. I mean, especially when people say like, oh, I just don't want to hit the ice because at that moment I lose the control of my bladder. Practice for those situations inside of your home, you know, doing your dishes. You can be standing on one leg. You can, you know, you do balance exercises going on your tippy toes. And then, again, I hate the word balance, but then let's make up for it with, you know, also stretches and the flexibility in a yoga, because we all might be so much more tight and in so much more of these, you know, slouch postures from just being outside. So again, find your time, and especially post activity, you know, hiking and cross country skiing and snowshoeing. Again, those are quite definitely great exercises to get your body moving. I definitely want people to kind of stretch. And I love yoga because yoga is all about, you do it at your own time and take your time with the poses. And if the pose is painful, then get out of that pose and make something different about comfortable. So I love the first picture of the child's pose. You use the pillow. You can rest your head on top of your kind of elbows. So you don't necessarily for yoga stretches have to look like exactly like the instructor is usually looking. And again, just target those hip muscles that just have to work so hard by walking outside, by snowshoeing outside. So the muscles can lengthen and can be kind of ready for another activity, another day. So something like a child's pose and pigeon pose and butterfly are my very, very favorite poses from yoga, as they really positively also affect, and they kind of have the direct connection to the pelvic floor. So those are my go three kind of stretches for the pelvic floor. So just to kind of conclude it, you know, it is about the balance, it is about the strength, and more, again, if you can slow it down, breathe through it, lengthen it, the body's going to just serve you better if it's more a relaxed state instead of kind of rushing through activity and kind of being all tight and uptight. Yeah, so that's all from me.
All right. Okay. So thanks, Lucia. That's great information. Again, telling us to stay relaxed in the middle of this crazy time. And even when exercising, I always find in the winter trying to run outside how I just do feel exactly that stiffness or tightness as you're just feeling more braced as you're running. And I'll find challenge to find the right shoe to give me grip, but not too much grip, and still have the soft shoe. So it's a whole different scenario of trying to get the right footwear in the winter to help us with dealing with the footing. So if anyone has a question, please throw into the chat and we can address them. Or if there's anyone on the panel that has a question for Lucia. Yeah, it's always good to know that we can prepare our body, keeping our hips and muscles strong, working on the pelvic floor, relaxing, stretching, stuff we should do all year long.
Yes, not just in the winter.
Okay, well, if there isn't any questions, and we can circle back a little bit later, we can move on to Monica, who I'm excited to introduce. She's from Mountain Equipment Co-op, and so that company that sells great clothes, great equipment, outdoor toys, and keeps us enjoying the outdoors. So Monica herself is an avid sports woman, loves the mountains, trail running, skiing, hiking, climbing, you name it. I think she probably does most of it. And she's going to help dress us properly this winter for the outside and dial us into winter and mountain safety. So welcome, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you, Louise. I'm very excited to be here. And it's awesome to follow Lucia, because everything she's telling you is going to help you in the mountains as well. Get strong. It's usually one of my first messages. But today I'm going to talk about how to dress and layer and be safe in the mountains by being warm. So yes, I work for MEC. I've worked there for 14 years, and I started on the floor, and I now work for head office. I for several years have actually tested quite a few different programs, including base layers, shells, and bed layers. So today, I would be amiss if I did not talk about the 10 essentials. These are actually quite critical, and they're going to lead us into layering quite nicely. So I'm going to go through the 10 essentials first, and then we'll talk about layering. So the first one, if this is a little bit of a show and tell style, is navigation. So I'm not going to speak in depthly to it, but making sure you have something that, you know, a GPS, a personal locator, beacon, map, compass, these things will keep you, you know, in the right direction. It's really important because a ton of rescues happen because people are lost and don't know where they're at, and then you have to lean into all these tools that I'm going to teach you today. Second, headlamp and extra batteries. As Lucia was talking about, cold does weird things to your body and to your gear. So make sure you pack up a second set of batteries, because sometimes things die just because it's cold, too cold. A little bit of sun protection, like Louise mentioned. I'm a skier, but I definitely bring these guys. A hat. It's a good reminder that sun actually reflects off the snow, so use some sunscreen. Quite a nice little tip, because I've been there and come back with a very good goggle tan. For a first aid kit, do some research around what you need, but I do carry, you know, blister pack, Advil, and some Tums. Usually comes with me every trip. Some sort of multi-tool knife to fix little repairs if needed. If you're snowshoeing, it's nice to have these kind of things and a little bit of repair gear to keep you safe. And you know, you don't want to be walking out with your snowshoes not on your feet. Something to start a fire with. It should be said, wintertime is always a little bit different than summer. So it's nice to carry a little bit of fire starter. I carry 2 lighters. I do have a candle in here, usually for my skins, but can be used for, you know, keeping your flame going as you're building a fire. Something that I always include, because winter is such a different game than summer, is that I always pack some hand and toe warmers. I have been, I have had frostbite in my toes, and forever now I have to be very, very careful. So I keep toe warmers for when things aren't playing that way. Next is probably something you don't think about, is an emergency shelter. I carry an emergency bivvy. These guys go for, I don't know, you can get one for like $2 all the way to $10. Really important, just in case something does go, like a friend sprains an ankle and you need to like camp out until like someone comes to rescue you guys, if that's the case. You guys can sneak the person who's injured inside this. And this is a reflective material. The last couple are my favorite topics. Food. If you were to kind of pop into my food bag, you might be kind of grossed out, but you can go with anything. I like to pack 8 hours worth of calories. Keeping your body warm includes keeping your body fueled. And I think Anne-Marie will probably talk a little bit about that, if not. But this is quite critical. You're burning a little bit more calories, or at least I've been told, when it's in the winter. So fuel up, whether it's a sandwich, chocolate bars, candy. I do carry, as an emergency prevention, some gels in here. I like them because they have electrolyte replacements inside them and a little bit of calories. So if you are out a little bit longer than expected, pair this up with your water and it'll help you retain your water a little bit better than just drinking it straight up. And I can use this too, hydration. Definitely carry at least 1 to 2 liters. I am an advocate of 2 to 3 liters for winter. Because there isn't access to water in the wintertime like you do in the summer, I still do carry some pristine tablets for purifying water. This is quite nice because, you know, if you need to grab from a creek, I would toss this in, follow the instructions. Cold water takes a little bit longer to kill the viruses. A couple of things that aren't on the essentials, but I feel like this is a really great place to bring up. This is called a shiwi. Not many people talk about it, but it is the kind of like your pelvic PT, an unsung hero. This guy here is, so you can pee into it. These guys, I would advocate for something a little bit bigger on the front end, but when it's really cold and windy in the wintertime, there's nothing like being able to pee sheltered. So it took me almost 34 years to start using this. This is the best thing in my pack. I toss it into a Ziploc baggie, I clean it after, pack it in. I also carry a couple of pads. And the reason I do that, you can use a Diva cup for just in case you start, but these are hygienic. Put them in a Ziploc bag. Worst case scenario, something happens, someone gets a gouge, you could use them to like soak up blood if you needed to in an injury or trauma, but I definitely carry them. I've definitely got my period on the trail by surprise, and it's always helped out, or you can get one to them. Now on to dressing yourself. Sorry, I just stepped into the light. Now layering, I think the foundation of dressing yourself for the outdoors is quite critical. I'm going to Lucia's point. You want to be warm. Let's talk base layers. Base layers are my favorite piece. I think they're the foundation of staying warm all day long. So, you know, I have a couple of links in the PowerPoint presentation that will get sent out. But you've got your merino base layer, and you've got your synthetics, and you've got your blends. I'm going to try to show this to you. Base layers are now actually designed, hopefully you can see this little gridding pattern. This gridded fleece is very intentional. And so these bumps here are made to suck up the moisture against your skin. So when you're hiking, whatever activity you're doing, like all ranges of temperature, this little part of this fabric is pulling that moisture away from your skin. And then the flip side, where it's got all that voided material, it's actually bringing it to a thin layer of material that actually helps you dry the sweat very fast with your body heat. When you see a base layer constructed like this, it is the A game of base layers. You can go with items that are a little less gridded, or it doesn't have it, but this is for wintertime. This weight is quite nice. You do not want to, you're going to sweat and you don't want to keep that sweat against your body. I don't have a ton of bras with me, but I would say if you can go with the lightest bra possible so that that moisture can move the fastest to that base layer, I find that's the best bet. Again, I just wanted to show this guy as another example. This one goes into a bit of a line structure. This is my new favorite piece right now. I got it as a gift. And it's a merino and polyester. So once you've got that all dialed, actually, sorry, someone mentioned underwear and I totally forgot about it. This is my plug. We don't carry these at MEC, but these are my favorite underwear of all time. They're knixwear. I don't know if you can see how thin they are. And what's really amazing about this underwear is it's so light that when you're sweating, it's actually pulling through. And it's a good thing to mention, don't wear any cotton clothes. I wouldn't even bring it out into the mountains in the wintertime. So consider that knixwear. If I could get sponsored by them, I'd be happy. You know, the next thing is it's mid layers. A lot of times you guys have this stuff in your closet. You may not know how to use it. Everyone probably has a puffy jacket, and I do endorse lighter layers. So pack 3 lighter layers instead of that one bulky jacket. In my backpack, I carry 3, well, I'll pack 2 layers, plus I'll be wearing, you know, a super light one. I like to go with synthetics because in the winter time, you're dealing with snow, sweat. This material has a high loft. I don't know if you can see the texture. If you can find a fleece that has this kind of cilia hair-like function, again, it's working the same way as that base layer. It's trying to collect that moisture, push it through, increase the surface area, and pull that away from your core even more. This is by far one of my favorite pieces. It was quite expensive. The technology is expensive. Other technologies in that range are Polytech Alpha, if you see that. But you can get away with basic fleece to be that mid insulation layer. The other thing here is like, it's just a, you know, this is a puffy jacket, as people like to call them puffers. This one's a synthetic version. Again, it's just because it doesn't hold water that I really, really like it. And synthetics tend to dry faster because they're hydrophobic. They're scared of water. Down is fantastic for the warmth to weight ratio. So you get a really light product, packs down super nice, but it has the tendency to technically absorb water. So if it's snowing that day, you might get it a little more damp. Finally, the shell. I'm really excited about getting dressed for winter. So my hard shell is, I use a Gore-Tex, but a waterproof breathable is the way to go because you want to protect yourself from wind, rain, dear God, hopefully we don't have rain, but finally snow. And this will help you keep those external forces outside of your core and keep that body warm. And then I really like a product that has a zip so you can dump that moisture and dump that heat. So that being said, I would go with a really solid base layer, great underwear, find a mid layer that works for you that is, you know, packable, a couple of layers, and then make sure you have a hard shell to take care of yourself. That's pretty much the basics of staying warm. I do, you know, my final conclusion would probably be get out and test the systems around town or on short hikes, play around with it. Don't be afraid to de-layer when you get hot and put back the layers on. When you start experimenting with layers, you'll be doing a lot of dancing for sure. The other tip I have for you today is when you're driving up to the trailhead, take off your layers and don't get hot in the car. And if you can bring a spare pair of socks, swap them out before you start hiking. And as long as you start dry, I think you will have a fantastic hike. So I can't see you, but if you see me, please say hi on the trails. I'd be happy and excited to see you out there. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, pop them over to Louise.
All right, well, thanks. That's just great information. It makes me want to go shopping, as it always does for outdoor gear, and find some of that underwear. So there's one question. I don't know if you can see the chat there, Monica. It says any recommendations on how to keep the fluids from freezing?
Sorry, I can't see it. Can you repeat it?
Any recommendations on how to keep the fluids from freezing?
Oh, yeah. I do use a bladder most of the time in the winter time, and I like to keep it right along my back. Make sure you have a good, comfortable backpack. And then I put the hose along my spine, actually. That's one of the easiest ways to keep it from freezing, and the back of your neck should keep it nice and warm. The other thing is, if you're using a Nalgene, just try to keep it close to your body. Sometimes I'll use warmer water at the start of the day, and it usually stays okay. If you're using a Nalgene, just tap it on your boot or on a rock or something, and it's usually pretty good to open it. I only have like freezing a tiny bit. And then I know some people might put like some sort of sugar or Nuun inside it. That should help too.
Yeah, great answers. I had a question about footwear, and what do you as a winter runner, what do you like to wear on your feet?
I'm a big fan of a trail runner in the winter time. Depending on the amount of snow, I actually got my husband to run upstairs and get these. Thanks for bringing that up, Lucia. These guys, Katulas, like Prairie Mountain, for example, I take these with me all winter long, and they work fantastic. And I don't know if you can see them, but they're pretty aggressive. But you can get things, a ski uphill in Canmore, they sell studs that you can drill into an old pair of runners. And I have done that with an old pair of runners. And so when it's icing in Beaumont, for example, I wear those runners and just do a quick little lap. I know my husband uses them. They're a fantastic option if you can make it out to Canmore, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. And one other question from me was really around your pack, because that's a lot of stuff you got there. And I know we were chatting about this and how do you just keep it all in your pack? You said your pack's not that heavy.
Yeah, I definitely am a weight weenie, as I was, joking with a friend of mine. I do use like a 35, 40 liter pack for skiing. Most of the time I can get around 3/4 full. And it's usually so that I can take any of the layers I have and pop it in there. It doesn't have to be extravagant. I think if you're going to do more hiking than ski touring, a lot of hiking packs have external pockets as well. So they're a really good option for, getting the extra little things that you want to have in for hiking.
Yeah, and would you recommend too, because I always find this a good thing to do, as soon as you're done your activity that's made you sweat, is to really get out of those wet clothes as soon as possible. So, and especially if you're, have a journey or you're sitting around outside with some people. So any comments there?
Yeah, that's fantastic. If you have a great pair of base layers, you won't need to. But I do actually, I don't know why I used to do this as a younger adult. I would just sit in my soaking wet clothes. And then I met my husband, who brings a duffel bag of extra clothing. And now I have like my duffel bag of other stuff. So after the day, I might toss on a pair of fleece pants, and I'll throw on a cozy t-shirt and, something a little bit warmer sweater, just to warm up that core as fast as possible if you are sweaty and cold. So you go for a long winter trail run or something like that. Get out of those clothes really quick, for sure.
Yeah, okay, one more question in the chat. It says, I get toe pain with my hiking boots and then lose a toenail. How should I size my hiking boots when I go snowshoeing?
That is a great question. A lot of that is around fit, and sometimes it's just around the toe box. So depending on the type of boot, you might want to get away, like you might be able to punch it out with, depending on the material of the boot. But I would advocate for maybe a little bit wider toe box. One of the things for winter hiking, I'll use it as an example, but it's not that they're any better than any brand, but the Darn Tough thick hiking socks, those are my go-to. And I usually wear those, and inside maybe a shoe I want the heel cup to feel really good, but the toe box, you want to be able to move your toes when you're in the store. If you can't do that, then you're going to have issues. And that's actually how I got frostbite. My boots were way too tight, and I lost circulation in my toe. So if you can't move around in there, see if there's a way to punch out that front part of the boot. Or, you know, I know the people at MEC are pretty good at getting boot fits. And if that happened at MEC, I'm go back and try to get a better fit, because we still have a rock solid guarantee.
Yeah, sore feet are fun. And that made me just think of another follow-up question to that, just around socks. What do you think is the best material for a winter sock?
Depending on what you're doing, I am like, if there's anything that I'm pro wool for, is I'm wool mixture for socks. And I like a loftier sock for winter, so that it can, the principle is that the more loft you have in it, it has the ability to capture the air, and it'll keep your feet warmer. So you want that space in there for sure. So wool is great. When I ski in my ski boots, I actually use a very thin synthetic boot, sock, sorry. So in contrast, I don't go thick with my ski boots.
Great, great. Well, that's really fantastic information. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing that. And just for people who've joined late, this video is being recorded and will be on our website shortly, as is last week's, if you want to check out last week's information. And I think Monica had a top 10 tip that we will also be posting, so that information will be there. So thanks so much. All right, so our final speaker of the night is Anne-Marie Vaillancourt, who's a registered dietitian and a consultant to our clinic, Movement Sports Clinic. And she has a dietitian practice to help people, obviously, with the weight loss issue, but also managing medical health issues and performance, and also injury management. Sometimes we have to pay attention to what we're eating as we're trying to heal, and certainly as that fits into the immune system. So I know she has some comments she might add into last week's chat when we were discussing the immune system a little bit more. So, Anne-Marie, on to you.
Thanks for having me. And I definitely want to cover nutrition for cold weather, but I also wanted to start with my passion is really helping people feel good. And some of my clients might be similar to the people on this call, and they might not all be like avid sports people. So I have some clients sometimes that, you know, take up running or take up skiing, but they really, really don't like it. So I want to talk a little bit today about making sure that we love what we do, because that can really prevent injury as well. And then we'll talk about, if we've got time, I'll talk a little bit about sleep and a little bit about immunity. So I wanted to share my screen with you guys today. All right. So I know that a lot of us, like we know the benefits of exercise, obviously, but I would love for you guys to look at this slide and kind of think in your head, okay, what benefit do I want this week or this month or this winter from my exercise? Because we know that exercise can help prevent chronic disease. It helps our mood, which is so important right now during COVID. It decreases stress. It helps depression, anxiety, insomnia. It even increases our lifespan, maintains mobility, reduces chronic pain. It's good for our heart, our bones. It even improves memory, coordination, and complexion. It oxygenates our body, and it supports our immune system. So I'm a big believer, whenever I help my clients set goals, it's the goal is the what, the motivation is the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? So making sure that we select the time of day that's best for us and the activities that are best for us. One of the things I always talk about, because you know, we all love going to the mountains, or a lot of us here on this call love going to the mountains. We love skiing. I was so happy 2 weeks ago when I skied on Friday, I skied on Monday at Bragg Creek. Now there's no snow, right? So what do? I want to remind people that even if you only have 10 minutes, like this morning, I started at 6 o'clock in the morning, back to back with clients until almost 6 o'clock tonight. But I had a couple of cancellations. So I obviously couldn't, you know, don my skis on. There's not enough snow, skates. I couldn't even drive anywhere to go for a nice hike. But you know what, there's 100 houses in my neighborhood and it takes me about 9 minutes to just go around. So I strapped my shoes on. I had 15 minutes between clients and I decided to just have my running shoes on and just went for 10 minutes, because we know that although Health Canada talks about exercising at least 2.5 hours a week or 20 minutes a day and so on, even little bouts of 7 minutes, using your apps to get some more exercise in, even going outside for 10 minutes, getting some fresh air and getting some movement has huge benefits. So speaking of which, I want to talk about exercise opportunity moments, and I'm going to invite all of you guys to stand up because we've been sitting for about 40 minutes right now, and I'm going to do some jumping jacks and then a couple of squats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 squats. Thinking about Lucia's exercises, right? So right now we've helped our neurons, we've helped our brains, we've helped our hearts, we've helped our bones. So I said hearts, hopefully we just have one heart, but so the exercise opportunity moments are finding, it's called habit stacking, and Lucia was talking about that again, right? And making sure that if you're pumping gas at a gas station, you got nothing else to do, right? If you can clip it and then you can move away from your car. I was doing some calf raises the other day when I was pumping, or if you still have to hold it, you can still do some squats or some lunges. When you brush your teeth, do a 30-second wall sit, do 10 lunges, take the stairs. So it's about finding those tiny little pockets of time. You're stirring a sauce on the stovetop, do some kickbacks. So because we know that 70% of our muscle is in our lower body, like Lucia was talking about, you want to make sure if you only have a few seconds, try to focus on the exercise in your lower body to get a bigger boost for your metabolism and bigger boost for your energy. Getting outdoors, sunshine, exercise, fresh air. Again, I'd love for you guys to read this slide and take a look at right now during COVID, with everything locking up again. What do you need? Do you need to reduce your stress level? Do you need to go outside and exercise and take a look at the trees and listen to the birds and de-stress this way? It's good for your vision to exercise outside, beautiful surroundings. Pay attention to your 5 senses. I always say we have 6 senses. We have many more than that, but I do the 5 traditional ones, and then I add motion, because we know motion creates emotion, right? Your skin making vitamin D, your change of pace, boosting your energy. And I would like to remind people that Health Canada does suggest that we take at least 400 IUs, international units, adults that are over 50, especially, every single day, even in summer. So I want to talk now about, we'll go right into the cold weather nutrition and hydration. It's just as important to drink and eat well in winter than in warm weather. And there's 2 challenges in particular. So the increased caloric need, as Monica was saying, because you are fighting the cold, and drinking when you're not necessarily thirsty. And Monica, had some amazing points. I'll touch on them again. When we hear something twice, it sticks better. But dehydration, signs of dehydrations can be thirst, irritability. You just don't feel well, you get headaches, weakness, dizziness, cramps, and then it goes into chills and vomiting and nausea and head or neck, heat sensations, decreased performance, at the advanced stages. So for hydration, we don't notice that we're as thirsty in the cold, like we just don't notice, your mechanisms just don't warn you. And dehydration is actually the most preventable sports-related injury, and it causes a lot of winter sports accident and misadventures. So on the next slide, I'm going to give you specifics on hydration, but remember, just remember this, drink plenty of water before, during, and after your workout. And I didn't know what that tool was, Monica, when I was looking at it, right? So if you invest in one of those things, because sometimes people tend not to drink so much before exercise because we don't want to have to go to the bathroom. We don't want to have to put our pants down. So that tool is amazing. So I'm definitely going to pick one of those up. So thank you. So if we want to go specifics, you want to drink about at least 2 cups 2 hours before. So that's kind of easy to remember. 2 cups of water, 2 hours before. Right before exercising, again, don't be scared of having to pee, and actually drink another cup of water. During your exercise. Now, again, part of this is like if you're exercising longer than 60 to 90 minutes, right? Then you can go into the sports drinks. But if you're just, exercising, water is the best form of hydration. Drink when you're thirsty. And some studies show not to exceed 1 liter per hour. And afterwards, you definitely want, okay, this is if you're going really, really specific. So on how to hydrate, especially if you're sports performance athletes, is you're going to weigh yourself before and after and replace those fluids. Now, that's pretty, specific. I would just say drink 2 or 3 cups of water after your exercise as well. And one of the best ways to know if you're well hydrated or not is just the color of your pee. So our pee should not be dark yellow. It should be relatively light in color, if not transparent. Let's move into how am I doing for timing, what to eat and when. So we do need more calories exercising in the cold because we need more energy to warm the air that we're breathing and humidifying the cold air. So that's definitely one of the reasons why we need more food. So 2 hours before, you want to remember the big general lines to remember with feeding yourself for sports performance is close to, you want to eat, or during exercise, it's carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are easily digestible. They're a fast form of energy. That's what our body, our brain, uses most effectively. Farther away, or like before the exercise, you can use protein. You can also use protein a little bit during the exercise as well, but 2 to 3 hours ahead of time, this is when you want to use the fat, right? So you wouldn't want to have a fatty meal as you're exercising if you want top performance. So 2 hours before, eat complex carbohydrates, proteins, and some fat. So just eat normally, right? I mean, we're not training for Olympic athletes right now. So hot foods are a good idea. So thermos of soup, chili, pasta, baked potatoes, PB and jam. Don't overcomplicate it. You can, on the way to the mountains, if you're taking a 2-hour trip, you can stop at McDonald's and have a hamburger if you want. Don't necessarily have the fries and the shake with it, but just, eat normally, balanced meal. And then if you're exercising 60 to 90 minutes, then you want to eat as you're exercising. So to replenish your energy stores, prevent fatigue, maintain your body heat, fluids, electrolytes. So good ideas here are starch, like carbohydrates and proteins. And of course, nuts and trail mix and peanut butter would have a little bit of fat as well, but we're not talking about fat as being the main fuel here during the exercise. So granola bars, cereals, energy bars, energy gels, as Monica was saying, a sandwich, fruit, sports drinks. Those are all great ideas. And after your exercise, studies show that, there's lots written about that, but we don't need to eat exactly after our exercise. So usually for maximum muscle retention, muscle recovery, feeling of well-being, it's eating a balanced meal with at least 20 grams of protein, which is like a deck of cards of meat, or, you know, a peanut butter sandwich and a glass of milk. Carbs and fat. So you want a complete meal, definitely with some carbohydrates to replenish 1 to 4 hours after your exercise, which usually correlates to your next meal anyway, right? So you don't necessarily have to eat right away. So some examples, as I said, could be toast, banana, and peanut butter, Greek yogurt with some fruit and some nuts, a protein shake if you want, an English muffin or pitas with turkey meat and hummus. So you can see all of the suggestions right here. So to summarize, you want to definitely stay hydrated, drink plenty of water before, during, and after. Monica was talking about carrying your water bottle or your skin close to you so that it doesn't freeze. Eating warm food if you can to maintain that body temperature. Eat carbohydrates, foods before, during, and after exercising to fuel your energy. Don't overdo it with fats during the exercise. Limiting avoiding caffeine consumption, because that can actually cause dehydration, and also you'll have to pee more, so that's uncomfortable when you're doing sports outside. And avoiding alcohol consumption, which can dilate your blood vessels and increase your heat loss. And Monica covered carrying more food and water than you really think that you need. That's super important as well. So here's some reliable resources on that. And I wanted to share with you, if I could move on to the sleep now, Louise, or? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna change the screen and I'm gonna share a little blurb I wrote on sleep. Okay, so your sleep affects your eating and your eating affects your sleep, right? So last week they discussed sleep and some tips on how to get a better night's sleep. But I also wanted people, again, my philosophy is people will adhere to habits when they know why, right? So with a big enough why, we can withstand any how, right? And Roy E. Disney says, when you know what your values are, decisions are easy. So not getting a good night's sleep, like not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, or just like missing out on 2 hours of sleep, it lowers your levels of leptin. And leptin is a hormone that makes you feel full. So if you don't have enough, you're not going to feel full. You're going to eat a normal meal, you're not going to feel full. I'm sure it's happened to all of us. And it increases your ghrelin. Ghrelin, think about growl. It's like that's when your stomach is growling because it makes you super hungry, right? Or so with those two things combined, you don't feel full after you eat, and you feel hungrier all day long when you don't get enough sleep. So that's one of the benefits of getting more sleep. Another one is that we know willpower fails us. We have more willpower in the morning. I always say don't rely on willpower to eat well, because it'll never show up when you need it. Willpower and motivation, right? So what you need instead is to make decisions, right? Lack of hesitation is more important than motivation. So make your decision ahead of time for what you're going to eat and follow through with it. And then your eating affecting your sleep. So we know that if you can split your food, every 3 to 5 hours eating, I'm a big believer in just eat 3 meals a day. When we all grew up, probably we didn't eat that many snacks. Our grandparents didn't eat that many snacks. You ate 3 square meals. Every time you open your mouth, you have the likelihood of overeating and feeling stuffed and sluggish after. So just open your mouth 3 times. And for sleep, important nutrients are to focus on iron, folic acid, zinc, calcium, and your B vitamins. We talked about limiting caffeine and processed foods for optimal performance in cold weather. Well, for sleep, it's important as well. And then you can use things like chamomile or peppermint or a sleep blend to help you with sleep. And for immunity, I don't have anything to share with you, but I do have a fantastic resource that I'll send Louise. And that's, you want to remember that no one food is going to prevent you from getting COVID. And we don't even want food to, like when we talk about boosting your immune system, we don't want your immune system being boosted. We want your immune system to be supported. And it's supported by eating a right amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fats. How do we do that? We eat a variety of foods. And most balanced programs out there or diets will talk about, and when I say diet, a diet is not like a restrictive diet, it's a way of eating, right? So the Mediterranean diet, it's all about having lots of fruits and vegetables at the top of the pyramid. And that's the resource I'm going to send you, is how to eat from the rainbow. I want you to remember that, you know, if you could eat, if you imagine a rainbow, so the purple, right? Purple and dark blue. So your blueberries, your beets, your blackberries, have one of those every single day. Then we go to your dark red, right? Your peppers, your raspberries, your berries. Berries are superfoods. You want to have those every day. And then your dark orange, so your peppers and your carrots, and then your yellows, and then your greens, of course, the darker the better. And then don't forget your white vegetables either. So your cauliflower, your onion, your garlic, your ginger. So to support your immune system, stay hydrated, eat lots of fiber through your fruits and your vegetables and your vegetarian protein as well. Have small amounts of meats, have a moderate amount of low-fat dairy product, and just have a balanced variety. So those are my tips for immunity, for sleep, and for cold weather. So I hope that you found this useful.
That's great. Thanks. That's a lot of great information. And just again, a reminder, we can all check in on that on the website, hopefully in the next day or two. There was one question in the chat about hydration, and it's about if you don't like drinking water, don't like the taste, it just doesn't do it for you, is it okay to add a flavored product to it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know how dietitians or, you know, nutrition, we always used to say eat or drink 8 glasses of water. Well, we know that 50% of our water that we drink actually comes from food, right? So just remember that food items can provide you with water and hydration. And definitely just adding Mio drops or Crystal Light or whatever, you know, orange juice, or absolutely is you'll get some electrolytes from adding other things to your water as well.
Okay, and next question, I'm always hungry before bed. Is there a good snack that I could eat because I can't fall asleep hungry?
Yeah, I would throw that back to the person. And I'm a big believer in, what do you like to eat, right? So if someone likes to eat a bowl of cereal before dinner, it all depends on what your goals are, I guess, right? So it's a hard question to answer if I'm not sure what the purpose is. So sometimes I have like just a milk before going to bed. Sometimes I have toast and peanut butter. Some of my clients have yogurt and a little bit of nuts. So, I mean, I'm a big believer that anything can fit into your diet. So, but feel free to message me if you have a specific questions about how I can answer that based on your own goals. If it's weight loss, or if it's lowering cholesterol or increasing your fiber.
Yeah, it looks like it was what's the least likely to interfere with the sleep. Like something, you don't want to be hungry, but you also don't want to not fall asleep because you just ate.
Okay, so is there a particular food that helps me sleep, or I would just focus on the amount? So just making sure that you don't eat too much before going to bed.
Right. Okay, great. Well, we have reached 8 and we started a couple minutes late, but I just wanted to give each of the participants just a chance to maybe chip in with a final thought, just based on what you have heard others say, or a thought that might have come from you or come from some of the other speakers. So Lucia, any final thoughts?
I guess I just really like the idea. Definitely pick something that you enjoy to do. Don't feel like you need to go cross country skiing with friends just because you don't like it, and just kind of find the joy and find a joy in strengthening, or find a joy in the flexibility and the kind of the stretches, and definitely, invest the money into the gear, because at the end of the day, warm feet will make you kind of stay out there better, and you might completely see the other, side of being kind of outdoors. So just definitely something that makes you happy, kind of will make you stay out there longer and enjoy it better.
Yeah, that's great advice. And Monica, anything?
This is a fantastic combo, actually, because I think what Lucia was talking about, like making sure you're keeping your body tuned up to get out into the mountains, or going to your PT to take care of your body. I know I have to, but and then the other part is everyday nutrition, everyday care, and is going to play into that fulfillment of going to the mountains. And so those tips are so valuable. Like, I was smiling and nodding the whole time. So I would say, yeah, it's like a full 360 here. So that was awesome. Good diet, good muscle, like little exercises that are going to get you to enjoy what the wonders of the mountains are. And I love sharing them with everyone.
Do you want to just show that Diva Cup one more time, just so people can?
Sorry. So the Diva Cup I do have, but I don't know where it is. But this is Shiwi, and they come with very different names. But again, go with something a bit bigger. It might seem really clunky, but it helps for not spilling. So I've used 3 or 4 different styles, but I'm in love. I will tell you, I will never have a frozen butt again from peeing. And I don't know if someone touched on this, but if you're cold and hiking and you have to pee, a paramedic once told me that your heat is actually being sucked into your bladder, so you're actually getting colder. So pee. He was always like, "Don't hold it. Pee. Get out there." So maybe the experts out there can share some more tips, but this has been a lifesaver for sure.
Yeah, we might be Googling how to use that thing.
It looks like it takes a little bit of practice. So do you buy it at MEC?
Yep. Yeah, you can get it at MEC, and I'm sure, I want to say I've seen it at Valhalla Pier, and I'm sure Campers Village in Calgary would have it as well. But it's usually in the health and safety area of the store.
So you kind of like shove it in your pants and you take it out your zipper? Is that what you do?
Yeah, so I think one of the hardest part was like the first time you do it, it makes you feel more masculine for a second, and then you realize how freeing it is because your butt's warm. But yeah, you just like, the nice thing about the knixwear underwear is it's so stretchy. So you're wearing pretty flexible pants, and then you just pull it, you slide it underneath into the pelvic area. And when it's a bigger cup, you're just peeing into a cup essentially. And there's a nice brim at the top that's quite soft, and you just cup it against the crotch, actually. It's really great. Like, if you get one and you try, you'll be like, oh, it's not that hard.
And then you still have to wipe, right? Because if not, it's kind of gross and wet.
I'm not gonna lie, I probably don't wipe very often, but it dries really fast when you wear like really light.
The Nix underwear, they are freaking awesome.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know when I started. It must have been backcountry stuff 15, 20 years ago. And I used to carry toilet paper, but now I'm like, oh, whatever. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but just wash, those base layer pieces once you get home. That's all it is. Just don't wear them 2 days in a row.
Oh, okay. Well, I really liked how we focused on self-care, whether it's getting stronger or investing in the gear. I know I tend to be pretty cheap with my gear. My friends tease me, I have clothes from the 80s. So you've totally motivated me, Monica. Your passion has come out. And Lucia, I'm going to be thinking about you and take longer strides I noticed that actually today. I was scared of falling. So, but what do you do when there's not enough snow to wear the cleats and stuff like that? Like if you're running around the neighborhood. So I just ran with running shoes. It was okay. But what do you do when it's in between? There's ice, but there's not a lot of snow.
I'll probably look for where there is ground, like a soil texture or grass instead. I have been the result of ice slippage, and I would say stick away from it. It's kind of a pointless injury. And if you can get like Boness Park, for example, you can see people stick to the side of the trail when the pavement is icy. Just trying to find something like that. That's where I usually stick to in this shoulder season where it's like, oh, today it's 5 degrees and then tomorrow it's -8. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question.
Yeah, my neighborhood doesn't have sidewalks, so I guess I'll have to go on the bike path and then go on the side. So thank you.
The only thing I would say is don't be afraid to drive somewhere, even inner city. Like we have so much in Calgary available to us that like there's Beaumont, I don't know about Nose Hill, I haven't been there recently, but like Fish Creek Park is fantastic. And I'm sure people can attest to this. Like you don't always have to be training on hilly terrain. You're going to get a great workout if you're on flat terrain as well. And, you know, my coach used to say to me, he's like, you know, the only thing that's going to ruin your training plan is an injury. So if you can stay injury free, kind of stick to that, like step back, slow down. And I think that's one of the best tips because this is a weird season right now for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great tip, especially through this shoulder season and sometimes shoulder season seems to last all year long in Calgary when we get the freezing and the melting. But that's a great advice to go, yeah, let's check out the city. I think we all probably in the summer went and walked somewhere different just to kind of get a new environment. And that's great advice for our winter exploring in our city if we can't always get out to the mountains. So, okay, well, we'll bring this to a close. That was really fun. I think, yeah, I'm going to do more yoga. I'm going to buy some Spanx underwear. And I'm going to take advantage of those opportunity moments and kick my butt when I'm brushing my teeth. So, so that's fantastic. Thank you, Lucia, Monica, and Anne-Marie. And again, information will be posted so you can check in. And they probably have contact information on that too. So if you needed to reach out with a specific question. So next week is the third of the trifecta, and it's called Ice and Isolation. So we'll be tackling the motivation piece and the spirit we all need to find to get us through this winter hibernation and to get to that spring renewal, which will be there in just a few months. Lucy will be back to talk a little about the hormonal piece and moods through the lifetime. And Melissa Powie, a run coach from We Run the World, will be joining us to give us some running tips and also some motivation. And Christy Garnett will be back to give us some insight into meditation and how to relax our minds. So watch for the link coming out. If anyone got a late link today, I'm sorry about that. And hopefully you could join, and please share with a friend. Have a great evening. Stay warm. Go buy some new underwear and stay hydrated. Make a plan with a buddy to get outside and keep moving. So have a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, guys.